some of the best connections, the ones that really stick, they often start with something super simple, right? Not some big formal invite, not a calendar thing with like 6 bullet points, just, hey, I'm grabbing coffee Saturday morning, want to join? Oh. And that kind of spontaneous, easy feel, that's really the heart of our deep dive today. We've been looking at this really interesting guide. It's essentially a blueprint for building community. And it focuses entirely on making real social connections happen through these like low-pressure, peer-to-peer get-togethers. So our mission here is to unpack this idea, the idea that maybe meaningful connections actually thrive when you strip away all the formal organizing stuff. We're digging into the structure, the psychology behind it, and the specific blueprint for what the source calls the unofficial event.
Yeah, this source material feels incredibly relevant right now. And the core insight, it's pretty powerful. It basically says the best friendships, the really deep ones, they almost always happen outside of the scheduled programmed activities. When you take away that administrative layer, the signups, the committees, the agendas, the whole process just becomes, well, human. It makes the interaction completely peer-to-peer. It shifts from feeling like an event you attend to more of a shared experience that you and your, potential friends are actually creating together.
That idea of co-creation, that's interesting. But okay, if we're aiming for that kind of spontaneous magic, we need to understand the mechanics, right? What exactly makes an event unofficial? And why is that structure fundamentally supposed to be better for making real connections?
Well, it really boils down to getting rid of the pressure, both social pressure and like logistical pressure. Calling it unofficial immediately lowers the barriers to entry. You ditch the need for formal RSVPs, the feeling of a huge time commitment, or the expectation that everything has to be perfect. People don't feel like they're signing up for some kind of requirement.
Yeah.
They show up because they genuinely want to be there. And that difference, it's huge. It means you get a much higher level of authentic interest right from the start.
Yeah, I can see that. It takes away that feeling like you have to perform. Like if I'm at an official work thing, I feel like I need to be on. But if I'm just joining a friend for a walk, I can just be me.
Exactly. And if you're the one initiating, there's zero pressure on you to entertain either. The whole structure is naturally flexible. So if only 2 people show up instead of the 8 you invited, the plan just adapts. Maybe it starts raining. Okay, you duck into a nearby coffee shop instead. That adaptability is so important because it gives everyone there a sense of ownership. It feels like ours. You're not just attending something, you're sort of co-creating this little spontaneous adventure.
Okay, but let me push back a bit here. If the barriers are that low, isn't there a risk people just flake out? Don't you sometimes need that formal RSVP just to make sure people actually commit and you're not left hanging?
That's a really fair question because we often mix up commitment with authenticity, right? The source argues that when people commit to something official, sometimes it's out of obligation. Duty, maybe, but when they show up for something spontaneous, unofficial, they're committing because they're genuinely interested. So if someone flakes on a low-pressure thing, chances are they wouldn't have brought great energy to a high-pressure one anyway. The formal structure might just trap people into showing up reluctantly. This way, you're filtering for real enthusiasm.
I get it. So it's the quality of the interaction, not just getting bodies there because they felt obligated. Okay, so if that relaxed vibe is the why, let's get into the how. The source lays out this really neat first unofficial event blueprint. And it's kind of counterintuitive because it starts so small.
It really does. It pushes back hard against that idea that you need a big crowd to build community.
Right. It argues the best connections actually happen in tiny groups, like 3 to 4 people. That's the size where you can actually have a real deep conversation. So the blueprint has 4 steps. We should probably break those down. Okay, step 1 is the foundation. Pick something you would do anyway. Why is that so critical for the person starting it?
It just takes all the pressure off you. If you're already planning to, I don't know, check out that new coffee place in South End or walk the rail trail, you're basically guaranteeing yourself a good time no matter who shows up. You're framing the invitation around your plant, not around like your need for friends. Starting with need feels a bit desperate, doesn't it? Starting with an activity just sounds like fun.
That definitely makes the next steps feel less daunting. Okay, step 2. Invite only 2 or 3 people. Keep the pool really small initially, neighbors, maybe coworkers, friends you'd like to get to know better. Then step 3 is about the wording. Keep it super casual. The template they suggest is basically, hey, I'm planning to check out place on day around time, want to join? And the last bit, step 4, just set a loose meeting spot. Like, let's meet near the main entrance around 10 a.m. That's it. The whole magic formula.
Yeah, that simple structure, it minimizes the mental effort for everyone. And once you've got that low friction start down, choosing the actual activity is really important. The goal and the source really hammers this home isn't just to do something together, it's to pick activities that make conversation easy, not harder. They should be a backdrop.
Ah, so things where you're side by side, maybe moving, rather than intense face-to-face stuff.
Exactly. And the source gives some great local examples, thinking about our area here. Anything involving shared movement or exploring works really well. Think about walking the Little Sugar Creek Greenway, or wandering around Freedom Park, or even just exploring a new neighborhood like Villa Heights. Moving around tends to lower social anxiety, and it creates natural pauses in the chat.
And food adventures, those are like built-in conversation starters. Trying the food trucks over at Optimus Hall, exploring 7th Street Public Market, or checking out a new ramen spot in Noda. The food itself gives you something easy to talk about.
Totally. Or think about creative stuff, which gives you a shared focus but is still relaxed. Like the first Friday gallery crawl in Noda, you're constantly seeing new things to comment on. Or even something hands-on, like pottery painting. Even low-key active things, like really casual pickleball at Romare Bearden Park, or maybe trying paddle boarding for the first time out at the Whitewater Center. They work because the point is just joining in, not like intense competition.
Okay, this brings us to the counterexamples, and this part I found really interesting. The source is super clear. Avoid the activities that are basically friendship killers. We're talking really loud concerts, super intense workouts, anything that requires total focus on the activity itself. If connection is the goal, you have to skip things that prioritize performing or just watching over the ability to actually talk easily. Oh, we've all been there, right? Trying to yell over loud music at a bar or gasp out a conversation while you're jogging uphill, those kinds of things actively work against connection. They drain your social energy, but don't give you that reward of real sharing or deeper talk. If you leave a get-together and you've maybe swapped numbers but haven't actually had a meaningful conversation, the source would say that was kind of a failure in terms of building community.
Oof. Harsh, but probably true.
Okay, so if the activity is just the stage and how you frame the invitation, that's like the main lever for setting that low-pressure tone.
Yeah, the psychology between the two ways of inviting is really different. The source contrasts that, like, official-sounding approach, I'm organizing a formal meetup, versus the casual way, hey, I've been wanting to check out that new coffee spot in Plaza Midwood. Anyone free Saturday morning?
That second one feels so much lighter. It subtly says, I'm going anyway, but hey, it'd be cool if you came too. You're not putting pressure on the other person to confirm some big social obligation. You're just offering a fun possibility.
And this leads to a really key pro tip from the source for initiating things. Always post about actual concrete plans, not just vague interest. Asking, like, would anyone be interested in going to the Whitewater Center sometime? It just creates mental work for people and usually leads nowhere. But saying, heading to the Whitewater Center Saturday afternoon, who wants to join? That gives a specific time and place. It makes it real and easy to act on.
That specificity definitely makes coordinating easier. Now, if you are trying to build a slightly larger group or need a little help with logistics like finding the best time or managing a group chat, the source does mention using simple tools, things like automated polls or group chat features. You don't need fancy software, just basic stuff to maybe set up a recurring hangout easily or send reminders.
Yeah, but even with the most casual plans, you still need some kind of simple RSVP. You can't just throw it out there and hope for the best. You should always ask for some kind of confirmation, even just a thumbs up emoji or a quick, I'm in. That way you know who to follow up with on specifics, like the exact meeting spot, and you're not left wondering if people who never replied are actually coming.
Okay, so we've got the blueprint, the best kinds of activities, the perfect casual invite. Let's zoom out again. How do these small, seemingly minor unofficial get-togethers actually build lasting friendships? How do they strengthen the whole community vibe?
They're basically the engine of trust building. Official events might help you meet new people, make acquaintances, but these unofficial gatherings, that's where those acquaintances start to become actual friends. When you share a spontaneous experience like trying that weird street food together or getting slightly lost on the greenway, you build shared memories and inside jokes much faster. And this fosters what sociologists call reciprocity. Because the initial invite was so low-key, people feel more comfortable stepping up and initiating the next time. So it becomes a mutual thing, not just one person always having to organize everything.
Yeah, I think we've all been that person agonizing over sending the perfect casual text.
Hmm.
And I can almost hear listeners thinking about the anxieties that come up. Probably the biggest one is, what if I put myself out there and nobody responds?
Totally understandable anxiety. But the solution is kind of baked into step one of that blueprint we talked about. If you start by choosing something you genuinely want to do anyway, exploring a park, reading a book at a cafe, trying that coffee, then you're guaranteed a nice time for yourself regardless. If one person joins, great, that's a win. If your own enjoyment doesn't depend entirely on turnout, a lot of that anxiety just evaporates.
That really shifts the perspective.
Ugh.
Okay, what about the fear of looking pushy or seeming desperate for friends?
Again, it comes back to the framing. You have got to frame the invite around the activity, not your own social needs. Think about the difference between, ugh, I'm lonely, let's hang out, versus, hey, this brewery in Plaza Midwood just opened a cool rooftop I want to check out. The first one centers your neediness. The second one centers a fun, shared opportunity, much more appealing.
And the last big one, that fear of awkward silence. Running out of things to talk about, especially if you don't know people that well yet.
Yeah, that usually happens in those intense, face-to-face, high-pressure situations. The antidote is the shared activity itself. When you're, say, walking through Noda or trying different foods at a market, the environment is constantly giving you new things to comment on. You talk about the food, the art, the weird building, the people walking by. The silences feel natural because you're both just observing something together, not desperately searching for the next thing to say.
So once we've actually pulled off that first unofficial event, how do we make it stick? How do you turn one hangout into something more lasting? Because consistency seems key here.
It absolutely is. A successful unofficial event shouldn't just be a one-off. There are specific things you can do to build momentum. First, try to end the gathering by planting a seed for the future, maybe referencing something that came up. Hey, next time we should definitely try that taco place you were talking about. Second, naturally exchange contact info if you haven't already. And third, maybe the most crucial part. Someone needs to be the consistent initiator, at least at first. The source even suggests creating a group chat just for spontaneous stuff. Maybe call it weekend adventures or something equally low-key. That ongoing stream of simple, low-pressure invitations is what really turns casual connections into a solid friend group.
Wow, okay. We've really taken this source material apart, haven't we? From the tiny details of grabbing coffee in South End to the big psychological reasons why this works. And the core takeaway feels really clear. You actually have everything you need to start building the community you want right now. It doesn't have to be complicated. The effort is really about being authentic and just taking that first small step.
Exactly. And just remembering that community isn't built by algorithms or perfectly planned events. It's built by people showing up authentically. Creating those kinds of organic, unplanned moments together, that's what makes a big place start to feel like home. That simple, spontaneous invitation you send, that might be the most powerful tool you have to reshake your social life.
Which really leaves us with something interesting to chew on, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If the real goal is deep, lasting connection, should we maybe start thinking about conversation itself as the main activity? And if so, should we intentionally prioritize things that require interaction, like walking, exploring, maybe cooking together, over events where you're just passively watching? And maybe even bigger. If these small, unofficial hangouts are so effective, how does that challenge the constant push for large-scale, programmed events designed to fix loneliness? Definitely something to think about until our next deep dive.